Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. I'm Jeanie Ryce, your co-host, and today is Monday, May the 19th, 2014. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us. And we would love to hear your comments and your questions, because then that makes this your show. And today is Parent Teacher Talk Radio. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. Had my new button on. Had to catch up with it. In any event, good morning. If you're on the West Coast, good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. An interesting illusion that we think there's such a thing as time, but that's another topic for another day. We're delighted that you're with us. We're honored to share this space with you, that you come and join us to support and be part of this learning, teaching, and understanding, applying the first century Aramaic process of forgiveness. And as we move through that topic, we have some shows that we set up to hit special topics. If you were with us on Friday, you were with Dale Allen Hoffman, and next Friday I think we're going to talk a little more about his writing work and what he's doing with the Aramaic and the direction that he's going with that, becoming quite a young known practical scholar, not necessarily the ivory tower scholar that lives in their head, but one that actually applies the tools. So it's pretty awesome to have Dale with us every Friday for Aramaic Fridays. And Monday is Parent Teacher Talk, and so we want to look into the topic today of lying. And we'll have, I think Julie is getting ready to travel, so I hope she's going to be with us today. Julie Haverstick, who is the author of Healing Children, Loving Children, and Dr. Tim Harris, a psychologist from Stanford. And Suzanne with us yet?
I am
okay,
here.
Well, she is here. Oh, that's Julie. Okay. Well, we're waiting for Suzanne Tucker to join us. And by way of introduction, I'd like to share a little bit about how the responses that come from our minds are learned responses. And Ginny and I just had a really powerful experience of seeing that on another level recently. To give you some background information, a couple of years ago, we were traveling up the coast of Oregon, where we are right now, and we got an email from a woman who said that her teacher, who was a Buddhist monk, a man who was considered to be the verified reincarnation of the Buddha of wisdom in their system of thought, in the Tibetan system, had tapped into some of our work and wanted to learn more about it. We just happened to be going by their teaching center with about a 2-hour drive to their teaching center with a 4-day hole in our schedule. So we went and we spent some time with a man named Kempo, just this awesome, sweet space of love. We just had a fabulous time with him and taught him the why work. We actually did 4 workshops in a row with him. We taught the forgiveness process personally to him and then to the people in his teaching center. And then they have centers in 2 different cities here in Oregon. So we went to both of those cities, and the last evening was in Portland, where most of the people participating in the center spoke Tibetan. So it was the 4th time going through the why workshop, and I taught the workshop in English to the English participants, and Kempo taught it in Tibetan. It was just awesome, awesome energy. Really sweet. And one of the things that he said to us was, you know, when we were in Tibet, we did not need forgiveness. And, you know, my mind kind of twinkled on that. I'm not sure what that means, but okay. And he said, we have nothing like this in the Tibetan culture. We have this thing of non-attachment, but non-attachment isn't forgiveness, different process. And I've sort of always, it's been about 4 years since we did that with him, and it's always been in the back of my mind. We didn't need that when we were in Tibet, but he said now that we're in America, we need forgiveness, and was very appreciative. And we kind of have an open door to go to his center anytime that we're here to teach when he's got a group there. In any event, this past weekend we were with some friends, Tom and Catherine, and they had a video called God grew tired of us. And it was an interesting watch. It's about the lost boys in Sudan. The country of Sudan is fairly wealthy. Sudan, pardon me, is fairly wealthy, and the Christian component of population tends to be in the southern Sudan, and the northern population has a different government, different style. And there was basically a genocide, and there were about 20,000 orphaned young men who literally walked for months and months in order to escape this genocide that was happening. And some of them, the story of this is their lives in the Sudan, and then their lives in, makeshift camps, the difficulties and the joys of doing that. And then there were several of the boys who were sent to America, the dreamland, and they, in fact, in the Sudan, I understand that they call America heaven. But as they come here, the harsh reality of, instead of living in community and living together in a space of connectedness and joy, they have to learn to get jobs, and they have to learn to separate from each other, and they have to learn to function in a way other than celebration and communication, which is their culture. And it's demonstrated very powerfully. But the thing that struck me with this film was when they came here. Now, these are young men who are now in their 20s, and they literally tell the stories of watching their parents be slaughtered, their homes, brutally slaughtered, their homes be burned, and having to run in the middle of the night for their lives to escape this genocide, and the hardship of literally walking for months through the desert, no food, starving, some of them starving to death, and watching their friends starving to death before they get to a camp where they're supported. But the thing that struck me was that when they came here, and these young men, seeing themselves as privileged with getting the opportunity to come to America, turned their face back toward their brothers, who are still thousands of them stuck in these dire conditions in refugee camps. But these young men had no hostility or vengeance in them. They didn't speak about how they were going to get even, how they were going to go and kill these people who killed their families. There wasn't a thought or a word other than sweetness from their lips, even after everything they'd been through. And I realized why Kempo said we didn't need forgiveness when we were in Tibet. It is a mindset, and it is a learned mindset. The hostility and fear of our culture is something that we learn. And our topic today is to move into the arena of lying. And I'd just like to offer that too is a learned response. And Suzanne's got some ideas for us, and she's with us. So we're going to look into how to bring ourselves back to, bring our children back to the truth of who we are, the truth of who they are. I think one of the first lies that parents learn, or pardon me, teach, is when the child observes the parent blaming someone else for what's going on inside of them, perhaps blaming the child. So telling the child the lie, you made me mad. And of course, that parent, years before they ever conceived the child, had that very quality of mad in them. But when the parent lies to the child and models that, then the child tends to learn exactly what they've been taught and tends to express it. And so the invitation, of course, is to, as Suzanne aptly points out on her website, when they have dogs that are problem dogs, they train the owners. It isn't about training the dogs, it's about training the owners. And in the same sense, to see that the parent has to make the same changes they're expecting the child to make. In the last couple of weeks, we talked about hitting and how parents tell their children don't hit, but then some of them believe that it's okay to hit. It's like, what kind of message is being said? And so, Suzanne, I thank you for suggesting that topic for the show today. We're delighted that you're with us. Suzanne has a website, mymommymanual.com. Some awesome material on there, some awesome parenting material. We're hoping to inspire Suzanne to bring her her teaching forward so that it's available to people on the internet live as she does her classes and parenting classes, which if you're in the St. Louis area, she's got one coming up this summer. So Suzanne, welcome to the show. We're delighted that you're here.
Well, thank you so much. I'm inspired by this topic because it's one that I think is a developmentally appropriate thing for us to look at with our kids, and it's one that is really real for parents because they're experiencing this challenge of what do I do? My child is, quote, lying to me. And they have good hearts and they want to parent their children well, and they just don't know what to do. And I think it brings up much for us as parents, linked really closely with fear of who is this kid and what have I done wrong? You know, why are they lying? So I think it's a really important thing for us to look at.
Awesome. So I love the creative suggestion that you had from one mother to handle that issue of lying. When you texted me about it, I got it too late to bring it up on the show last week, but I think it's a great place for us to start today.
Well, good. Well, I'd love to share about the forum that I was in where this first came to a head, at least most recently for me, in a group of parents that are under the group Attachment Parenting in St. Louis. And someone specifically said, how do you deal with a 4-year-old lying? I am so done with it, he does it without even blinking. And that was her exact quote. And I shared my reply was delicately. And my thought is to never call a 4-year-old out on lying by labeling them a liar. And the invitation was to get underneath his motives and address those. Is it attention? Is it power? Is it fear of what the truth might create? And really understanding it as an underlying need to be loved or feel powerful, and to come at it that way versus there's something wrong with my child or I'm not parenting well because he's lying. That was how I first, yes. So it was a neat discussion. What unfolded were some parents weighing in on their experiencing of it being a developmental norm and developmentally appropriate. And I think right away when other parents are saying, I've dealt with this too, most people exhale because the fear that it is my child or my child is broken or somehow, a problem, or it's because of the way I parented. Once we know the developmental norm is to say what is expected, that is actually a child's divine, their brilliant nature, is to say what's going to bring them closer to love. And if they have an expectation that in their home they know that if they ate the cookie and they say, yeah, I took the cookie, they're going to get, punished or yelled at or be pushed far away, that child's inclination at age 4 is to say, no, I didn't eat the cookie. So I think one, understanding, yes, a child is very intelligent. They're a little scientist, and if they know that they're going to be pushed further from love, they're going to go with the answer that's going to bring them the connection or the love. That's developmentally the norm. Now, if we can create a safe place for truth in our homes, we can teach about truth, even truth when the truth is uncomfortable or creates a challenge for you, especially, let's say, in the circumstance of, yes, I ate the cookie, or no, I didn't eat my vegetables, I flushed them down the toilet. How are we receiving these truths as parents, and what are we teaching our child? Because if we get mad and yell at them for telling us the truth about having flushed the veggies down the toilet, there was our teaching moment. We've now taught our child that really didn't work out well for me when I told my mom the truth about what I did with my carrots. So next time, I'm going to be sure to hide it better. So I as a parent, I really like to look at my short term and my long term. What am I setting in motion here? Am I creating a safe place for us to connect and share honestly, or am I, scaring my child and teaching them that there's a certain way to be, and if you're not being that, then I can't be with you. I can't love that about you. So what was neat, though, was one of the suggestions that came from the parents in the forum. You get into the real world ways that people are challenged and what they do in response. One mother said, I want to get the exact words, she said that basically the way they deal with it is, that if there's an untruth said in their home, that people can't be believed, and so the natural consequence of lying is that in their home, every statement that is then said has to be verified. So even like the sky is blue or I made my bed must be verified. So they hold the, quote, liar or the person telling the untruth as being untruthful, and that for an hour, no matter what is said by that person, they verify it. So they make a big game or playful about in the negative. So like, oh, well, you said your bed was made, but I can't believe your bed is made. So, they basically take this and negatively reinforce it. So I would hold it as a teaching moment and positively reinforce teaching and guiding versus attempting to alter behavior out of fear or the negative. And so we had this great conversation about what is the parent actually doing when they then hold the child as a liar and for the next hour have to verify everything they say. And you could see where, her attempt was to take it as a teaching moment, but she took it the exact opposite. In verse, right. You are good and honest and, So, a really rich discussion followed. So.
Cool. Well, one of the things that I'd like to put in the equation, when you talked about all the things that may be going on for the child that they would lie, are they doing it because of this or this or this? I think one of the other things that needs to go in the equation is to look at our culture. And if you go back to the Aramaic in the Beatitudes, there's one of the Beatitudes that says that in order to function out of and move toward happiness and well-being in my world, I have to love truth. I have to look into my errors in thought and the errors of my society. And so if you recognize that as a basic principle, one of the errors of our society is virtually the whole culture lives in denial. When was the last time that you heard someone say, except for someone who's got the twins as you do within your family, when was the last time you heard someone say, when you did this and so, that brought up anger in me, or that brought up fear in me, or that brought up sadness in me? And most parents, because our whole culture functions that way, model lying all the time. You, child, upset me. You made me mad. Your father really, made me angry. Your mother really, and they hear their parents doing it all the time. So as you say, they're the scientists. They're learning. I like to call a child a learning sponge. And they're learning from the modeling that they get, and very much like, and this really struck home, and I'm kind of glad we didn't do this topic last week, because it was just a couple of days ago that we watched this video on God Grew Tired of the Lost Boys of the Sudan, and to see these kids with what they've been through, and nobody modeled vengeance for them, so they didn't have any vengeance. There was not one vengeful, angry word toward these people that they saw literally slaughtering their families and creating, untold, unbelievable hardship beyond what anybody in America has ever thought about having here in this country. And yet the children, not having had that model for them, and these are now young men, are not in that vengeance mode. And the child who sees the parent telling the untruth, of course, I think that's one of the big factors why children don't exactly tell the truth, because it's what's been modeled for them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it's it's wonderful to look at, like you said, both, always, what is going on for my child and what is going on within me. And so the fear, let's say my child is a liar, or I have not parented them well, or what happened to me when I was a child, when I told them this truth. These are all, where I go, where we go, and therein is the opportunity for healing. And I think one of the statements last week or the week before was, take everything seriously but take nothing personally. I loved that. I love that. And so, yeah, sure, we can use this as a teaching moment. But when we react and we get, triggered, how can we teach if we're operating out of our brainstem and we're not in our cognitive mind or in the mindset of love? How are we able to guide and inspire and teach our child? So there's always a double opportunity. What is there for me? And then what can I do? Because parents are really willing, I think, many that I'm working with, to look at within them, to look inside, and they also want a real world, what do I do now?
Right.
So one, some of the musings that led to a story sharing about a child who was saying, "Oh yeah, I washed my hands," when clearly the child was not washing their hands after they'd gone to the bathroom. And so the mom, when she got past her, all the upsets, she just started making herself available post-bathroom to be present for the hand washing. And it just took her being active and getting up or being there for this new habit to happen. So you can see where it could be that simple. The other thing, she did not enter into power struggle, which is words like, did you wash your hands? Which is very much, a power struggle ready to go for a child who wants to be in charge and in control and be right and be loved and, do the right thing. That just sets them up to answer with a lie, yeah. Instead, it was, okay, let's go wash your hands, or the invitation, or a clear action. Okay? So it can be that simple for a parent just to have the right tool. Instead of just expecting that the 4-year-old is going to answer you without lying, set them up to win. Remove the question. Bring your presence and your love. And all of a sudden now your child is living into your behavior or the expectation you're wanting to create, which is a habit that we want to have. Let's say it's hand washing post going to the bathroom. So I think that it can really help to bring it down to sometimes what are the words we're saying and what are the actions we're using. Once we do clean up, the fears or the whatnot that was running us, now what? What do we actually do?
It sounds like a really powerful way to move the child in the direction of, establishing new habits. And I know that Julie, when she was in the inner city schools in Dayton, Ohio, she worked with a lot of kids that didn't have much positive parenting. And one of the things I know that she did, and perhaps she could share with us a little bit, is she would set up and explain to the children exactly what the rules were. And then, Julie, do you want to take it from there and just share with us how you solved that challenge in the classroom?
Well, I had a lot of children that, did lying, and one little boy was very aggressive with his lying. He would trip children and say he didn't do it, and I see him do it, and he would go in the bathroom and stuff toilet paper in the toilet and flood the bathroom and say he didn't do it. And so, we had lots of kind of bizarre behavior when it came to lying, and I think it is a learned behavior. However, what I did was I went over the rules, and I always kept those rules pretty basic, and I always had a bullseye there. And, in the bullseye, and that's also in my book, it has the letter grades A right in the center, and then B and C and D and then F. And I explained what those grades meant. If they had an A, they were always on target. And B, they were beyond the target, and C, close to the target, and D, darn far from the target, and F, far from the target. I used the bullseye to support them with their behavior rather than doing any labeling. But when it came to lying, I realized that I must be lying. Again, I was working for cooperation with the class. So I did a lot of worksheets on my lying. And then what I decided was the best thing I could do to support somebody who was continuing to lying is to reinforce the word truth. So what is the truth here? And even though I kept getting that denial and that lying, and I especially think of this one child, then in time, the word truth finally came across that, I think what's written, and I explained to him it's really important for you to understand that there is a truth here, and that I don't think you're telling me exactly what happened because I didn't see what you're saying as being the total truth. So I stayed away from the word lying completely because I think lying is kind of a negative, has a negative direction. I think teaching children the truth as best I can by teaching them the commitment, which is how they're going to behave in the classroom, and also teaching them that I'm going to work towards telling them the truth all the time. And so I did the best to model it. And again, I left the word lying alone. I went to the word truth. I hope that's supportive. What do you think?
Absolutely. We are creative beings. Yeah.
Yeah, and the child definitely learns to create according to what is modeled, had modeled for it, and what is told about itself. The child who's labeled the bad child, first of all, probably comes from a genetic heritage where a dad or a mom, a grandmother, grandfather have been labeled as the bad child, and so they're carrying on a family tradition. And the healing of those family traditions can be a very powerful and sometimes a daunting and challenging experience. Dr. Tim, with the parenting work that you've done, do you have any input on the conversation?
I would say all of the above.
Yay.
Are you going to catch me on the copyright for that? One of the ways I talk about it in my Power Struggle Handbook is to say, it's just slightly different words for what everybody has already said. But I tell people that regardless of how much my children are going to learn from me, and let's just say they're going to learn 100 units of lessons from me throughout their life, 80% of that is going to come by watching what I do. Not from my lectures, not from my punishments, not from my interventions. 80% of whatever they learn from me is going to come from modeling. Now, I don't have the statistical study to prove that, but that's what I tell people. The vast majority of what they learn from me is going to come by watching what I say and do. And if that's the case, then whenever I see something coming out of my children that I don't like, the very best use of my energy is to focus on myself and work to become more of the kind of person I want them to be. Now, that's just the shorthand.
Good phrase.
Well, that's just the shorthand for what Julie just said. Yep. And what Suzanne was saying. It's exactly the same as everyone is saying. And so I couldn't agree more that if you speak about the positives and you do your own worksheets and you learn to calm your own fears and anxieties, and if you see your children lying, you talk to them about telling the truth and the value of it, and then you just make sure you're telling the truth at every new level that you can explore and uncover how you might not be. So that's what I would offer.
Be impeccable with your word.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as you talk about your parenting struggle handbook, Dr. Tim, how does one go about getting that handbook?
Well, it's available off my website. It's also through Trafford, but I wouldn't recommend that. That costs more money. But if they go to I've said this so often, I'm sending them to your. It's C as in cat, H as in hat, the number 4, C as in cat, S as in Sam.com. CH, the number 4, CS.com.
So you can get that parenting parent struggle handbook there, and we've actually just we're waiting right now to get the new copy of Healing Children, Loving Children back from the printer. Julie has done a lot of editing work on that, and so it's in the printer's hands. We're waiting to get that back. So if you want to order that, you can go to whyagain.org. And what stage, Suzanne, is My Mommy Manual in at this point in terms of being available?
My Mommy Manual, the book, or the video,
yeah.
or the website, or the community?
All of the above.
Okay, so we are an online community, very active on Facebook, with these daily little nuggets and inspirations, really where parenting and our intergrowth and healing meet. And I would say that the first invitation would be to go to Facebook, and it's facebook.com/MyMommyManual, to be just pulling this into your ways of being every day. And then online, the website, if you join the website, you'll be getting emails from me about every other week, sometimes weekly, with little nuggets there as well, little opportunities. As far as an online course, what I have right now is called Yoga Parenting, and I co-developed it with a Yoga Kids instructor, and it's an 8-week online course. And the one that I'm offering now, called Positive Parenting, it's still being road tested, so I don't have it online yet, but it will be a 6-week offering, and it will go into the themes and the experiences that I'm offering currently live here in St. Louis. I'm hoping to have audio so that you get the real experience, because I think the interactions within the class are so rich. But that's where we are right now.
Cool. And if I remember correctly, if someone signs up for your newsletter online, they also get a PDF of a piece of material from you as well as a free gift.
Yes, there's a free gift. It's a journal called Hug Each Moment. It's something I co-created with a graphic designer, and it's love notes to your child. And you can download this. Your child can be 26. You can still download this. But really, it's a pull for parents of children 0 to 10 to begin to write their experiences and their thoughts and their feelings for their child. And because I believe in parenting, my gift or my challenge is to know and love myself, that my child will too. So as I come to know and love myself, how much more able am I to know and love who is this child, who is this soul, this person who came to me into my life fully formed as a soul. And I think so often we as parents think we do these things to them, but truth is they come to us and we are there to guide or to get in the way, really, or either a little bit of both sometimes. But this download is a journal. So you'll write down little stories from your first memories of conception, delivery, and parenting as a child.
Awesome. So then it sounds like it's really a format for tapping into being the love that we are and recognizing the love that the child is and sharing that space with them in words so that in the future they'll have something to go back to, and how precious a gift that is. So every parent, I think, should definitely tap into that. That's awesome.
Absolutely, and sometimes it's easier to see that when they're tiny and there haven't been these patterns of triggers with them when they're 3 and 4 and 13. Sometimes we can lose sight of that. And going back to this journal it's been a real gift for a lot of people, myself included.
Cool. So if people just go to mymommymanual.com and sign up for your newsletter, then they'll get that free.
They do, yes.
What a gift! That's awesome. And of course, the one of my favorite statements about children is that having children is like having your unconscious mind hanging out in true living color and Dolby sound. They will give you the opportunity to deal with everything you've never dealt with in your life and everything that your parents never dealt with. So this idea of bringing healing into the parenting process is, and the way that you're doing it is just awesome, and we appreciate it. And Julie, the same. The work you've done in that arena, and Dr. Tim is just amazing. And we are blessed and honored to have this show on Mondays with Parent-Teacher Talk, and really looking forward to how it all unfolds as time moves on. And Jeanie tells us that we've got a caller online, so our caller, we want to keep our questions to parenting questions. So what do we have, Jean?
We actually have Magda, and she's probably got some good insight because she was a teacher too.
Oh, awesome. Teacher talk. Welcome, Magda.
Thank you very much. Yes, I was a teacher and a school social worker, so I have some perspective. However, when I was in both of those careers, I was not acquainted with your work at that time. I had other ways of working with self-esteem, self-love, responsibility, and so forth. And I wish I'd had your material, but I didn't. So I wanted to. This show is fantastic, and Michelle and Julie, I am so happy that you have committed to the Mondays, the Parent-Teacher Talk Mondays. It's fantastic. And this morning, everything has been really great. All of the comments. I do have one thing to offer, and that is that Michelle, you're talking about the teaching moment and how important it is to realize that the teaching moment is present and can be utilized. And I just want to mention that, in my opinion, the teaching moment, every moment is actually a teaching moment. And if we as parents or teachers are in a loving place, then we're teaching love. And if we are in our craziness because we are in hostility or fear, then that is actually what we're teaching. So just as we are always creators, creating everything, even the negative that we don't want to own, I believe we are always teachers. And and what Dr. Tim said about the children will learn mostly from what they watch and see, I totally agree. And this topic about teaching children to love the truth, and I love the idea of focusing on the truth, Julie. What that, in my mind, is we are really teaching them responsibility, taking responsibility for their own actions, for everything that they say, and that leads right into taking responsibility for what is going on inside of us, including our feelings and all of the things that we can find in our carbon-based memory. So those were just some comments I wanted to add and see what you think.
Cool, and I think you meant Suzanne when you said Michelle. But good input, thank you.
Oh, yes. Wait, Suzanne?
You and Suzanne haven't met yet. We'll have to get Suzanne down to Heartland and get you guys acquainted.
Yes. Wonderful. I love the distinction because every moment is a teaching moment, truly. And, to just drive that home, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so that was all I wanted to add, and just you guys are doing a fantastic job. Keep on going.
It's in the plan. Thank you, Magda, for participating. We appreciate you.
Oh, may I add something else? Suzanne Tucker I want to acknowledge her because she has taken on the responsibility to do the notes for the show 2 days a week. And she is so delighted because she is a parent, and one of the days that she decided to do the notes happens to be Monday, and then you instituted the parent-teacher talk Mondays, and it's like, oh, she's a happy lady. So anyway, I have a great deal of gratitude for her helping out with doing the notes for the archive. And I just wanted to mention
thank you, Susan. Yay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, how does your garden grow? For those who don't know Magda is a neighbor at Heartland, just down the road a little piece, she and Chuck. And I know you've been working hard on your garden. How is it moving?
Growing. Everything is growing. Yes. Yeah. it's been kind of weird weather with warm and then really cold snaps. So things that would have been in the ground by now are still in their little containers being nursed and taken inside during some of these very cold nights. So I think we're a little delayed, but everything is looking good. Chuck is working on those vegetables.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, one of the posts I did recently to one of our Facebook pages was a garden in every school, and that I think that part of the educational process that children go through their process would benefit hugely if they every day learned how to get their fingers in the earth and to actually grow their own food and learn and understand more about where food comes from and how it develops and have that connection with the earth, because so many people have been literally uprooted from that and would have no idea in time of crisis how to handle that, and or in their own homes where they have space to do so, just don't have any idea where to start. And so if you want to take a look at that idea of if everybody would check into it, maybe in your community, urge your schools to start gardens. And, there could be a garden recess every day for kids to go out and learn about that whole awesome thing of you put this little thing in the ground and all of a sudden you have potatoes or corn or tomatoes or, peppers. It's just such a miraculous thing for children to actually get their hands on and participate in.
Mm-hmm. Michael, can I share something encouraging in that token? Our children's school, if you've ever heard of the Reggio approach, they have a program, and it's called Seed to Table. And the kids literally do exactly what you just were talking about. And it's a beautiful program. They plant the seed. They cultivate it during school time. They apply lots of different core curriculums to the garden, and then they harvest and share. And it is a formulated program. And if you Google, it's probably very well explained online, but it's called Seed to Table. And we're really blessed that our kids are getting to be a part of it. It's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I'm still connected. This is Magda.
You're still on, Magda. Go ahead.
Oh, well, I want to share with you, that's a great thing. Seed to Table, I'm writing that down because here in Theodosia, we are several people and groups are getting together to form a community garden. And we're hoping, planning that we will be able to get the children involved next year. It's too late now. They've already graduated and they're out and so forth. But starting next year, we want to see about getting the kids involved. So thank you very much, Suzanne, for that information. Seed to Table. Thank you.
Yes.
Wonderful. I'll sign off now and wish you all a really happy, loving, and blessed day.
Thank you, Magda.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's pretty cool. It'd be interesting. I'd love to see their curriculum because I can see how that garden could become a place for children to write. There are math skills involved in planting a garden and seeds and counting and how much do you need, how many square feet and how many plants go in a space. How much, how do you divide that out to separate the plants? And I mean, there are all kinds of ways you could bring that, the history of food, the geography of food. There are just all kinds of ways that could be built into the curriculum and give people a real functional, something that will really serve them all their lives to have their hands and their minds around that food and all the dynamics that go with it. That's pretty cool.
And it makes learning, when you're the creative learner, the kinetic learner, it all of a sudden brings learning into your learning style. That's one of the things they're really getting behind too, is, like you said, it's practical knowledge applied, and it's also feeds into all the many different ways we learn. Very far from the worksheet sort of learning.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, Jeanie just informs me that the internet went down where we are, so I'm not sure whether we've got any other hands up, but let's just open the floor for Dr. Tim or Julie or Suzanne to share more thoughts.
I have one. I want to open it up so to Julie or Tim, as I was just sharing. But if nobody has one, I do have one concept that I feel like is a real easy to grasp tool, and it's real helpful to me in my parenting, is to connect before correct. And I love it because it's easy to remember. And we were talking about, lying and some difficult moments, some opportunities, potentially difficult, and opportunities. And if you can get back to that, connect before I correct, whatever we're going to flow into, wherever our intuition takes us as far as how we're going to respond, if we can connect to our breath and make sure we're connected to our child, then whatever goes down, whatever we share, it's going to be successful, much more successful. If we feel like we've connected, taking a moment, if that means to sit, to put our hand with them, to get eye contact, to get in charge of our emotions before we attempt to teach or regulate our child.
I really like that.
Awesome concept.
I love it. I like mantras. Anything I can remember in a moment, little mantras.
Connect before you correct. Beautiful. Any thoughts on that, Dr. Tim or Julie?
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Good to have something very quick that you can, snap out of it. Let's say you're caught in your stuff or I've caught in my stuff, then I can snap out of it. Well, wait a minute. I need to, connect with this child before I'm going to correct it. That's a really good idea. Excellent.
Yeah, I have to echo that and say that the idea for better parenting usually comes from more connection, with the possible exception of the helicopter parent who tries to micromanage. I think far more mistakes are made by having the distance from parent to child than they are from being too connected. And and the only other thing I would add that came to mind earlier when someone was talking about the lying thing is, for years I had parents come in and they're just lividly angry because their child lies and lies constantly and every day and multiple times a day. And when I ask, well, can you give me some examples? They jump out of their seat with examples because they give their child a chance to tell them the truth, this is their words, many, many, many times a day. The way I would describe that is they set their child up to lie to them many, many times a day. And the classic one is they come home and I say, are you done with your homework? And they say, yes. And then I know they aren't. And then I go and I pull their stuff out, and now there's this big argument, and why are you lying to me? And it's a big clash. And I say to them, well, if you know that has happened multiple times, then a simple solution would be don't ask your child if they've done their homework. And then the parent flies up and says, well, I should just let them flunk out, and then they'll be on the streets as bums and all these horrible things. And I said, no, I didn't say don't pay any attention to whether or not they did their homework. My suggestion would be you ask them to bring you their completed homework, or you sit down with them to do their homework. But if you know they're going to lie to you, if they want to go out and play and they have to do their homework in your house rules before they go out and play, if you ask them, did you do your homework, you're pretty sure they're going to say, yeah, I did my homework, I have no homework. And then you're going to fly off the handle again. Do you like it when you're that angry? Well, no. So it's a process. And if you stop and slow down and look at it, it isn't that hard to find ways to set them up for success and to identify patterns where we might be setting them up for failure. But in order to do that, I have to get more involved. So I have to connect before I correct. We're going to say that enough times it's like the Pope Peel phrase.
There you go. Well, one of my thoughts in that whole topic, there's an interesting story. I think I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, but it fits here again. there's a story about Mahatma Gandhi, and this woman has a son who's addicted to sugar, and her son just idolizes Gandhi, and so she walks for days to get to the village where Gandhi is, and says, you know, Mahatma, my son loves you, will do whatever you tell him to do, would you tell him to stop eating sugar? And Gandhi says, well, go back to your village and come back here in 2 weeks. And so for days they walk back to their village, and then days they walk back to Gandhi's village. And Gandhi says to the boy, stop eating sugar. And the woman was like, why didn't you say that when we were here? You know, all this walking, all this work we had to do to get back here. And Gandhi said, I had to stop eating sugar first. So my question to the parent who would tell the lie that they're all enraged because the child is lying would be, why are you lying to your child and telling them that they're the cause of your rage? The cause of your rage is the unforgiving content of your own mind. It's got nothing to do with your child. Your child certainly resonates it, but you told the first lie, and that was, you made me so angry. I'm enraged because you did this. And that's just a fraud. And in virtually every parent, because that's how our whole culture has been trained, virtually every parent does that with their kids all the time. They do that with everyone around them. They hear their parents come home and sit down, yeah, my boss made me so mad today, and I was so frustrated about what happened on Saturday with that, you know, that thing that happened down the block. And then they model that lie for their children all the time, and then they're surprised when the children feed back their modeling. So I would suggest that every parent be like Gandhi, and if you want your child to stop eating sugar, then you stop eating sugar before you tell them to do that. And if you want your child to tell the truth, then you tell the truth. And the truth is, you know, Johnny, when you tell me that you've done your homework and you haven't, that really brings up a lot of rage in me. And as I think about it and I do my work around this, as I, the parent, forgive and do my work around it, I can remember when I was 5 years old and my parent just pouring rage into me over the fact that I didn't do what they wanted me to do. And so, son, daughter, I'm ready to heal my rage that I have been mistakenly blaming on you. It doesn't mean the parent's bad or wrong. It's just how our culture has trained us. And when the parent can take responsibility and move through, they also model the child taking responsibility. And as the locus of control moves inside the child is going to take more responsibility. But it's really hard to teach a child to take responsibility and tell the truth when the caretakers of the child don't tell the truth and don't act responsibly. And it may seem for some people, you know, it's a first introduction to this idea, like a subtle difference, like, well, what is that? What's the difference? Children learn what they live, as somebody wrote a beautiful poem about. And as you clean up your own mind, watch how those unconscious minds hanging out in true living color and Dolby sound, called our children, show up. They'll show up differently, as will the whole world. The whole thing, the whole game starts to change when one steps into being impeccable with their word, telling the truth. If I'm in pain, if I'm in turmoil, if I'm in upset, I have a problem. Now, you may have a problem too. See, Johnny, you didn't do your homework and you told me you did. You may have a problem too, but right now, Johnny, while I'm in my fit of rage, you not doing your homework and telling me that you did isn't the problem. The problem is my rage, my pain, my turmoil, that I need to go back and address and heal. And as we do that, we start to heal these generational patterns. And we get to really, truly create our lives, as Suzanne's topic is, conscious parenting, as conscious human beings. And of course, our definition of a human being is the active presence of love. Hold a newborn child, you know what a human being is. And to get back to that requires forgiveness. For those who are listening to the show perhaps for the first time, if you'd like to access the forgiveness technology, it's free on our website. You can go to www.whyagain.org, and there's a bullseye on the page. Thank you, Julie, for that concept. And if you click that bullseye, you'll find a whole list of links. The first link is chapter 24 of my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? It talks about forgiveness. It's free to download, as is the whole book on other parts of the site. There is a copy of the worksheet itself you can download. the latest how-to of Aramaic forgiveness, first-century Aramaic forgiveness. And then there are several radio shows where we walk somebody through the whole process step by step. So there are full custom instructions with a number of different stars, Dr. Tim, Julie, me, and Mond even gets in there with a worksheet process. So tap into that material and put it to work in your life and watch how it transforms the whole game. So we're down to about 3 minutes. Anyone have a closing thought or two to share?
Yeah, Michael, this is Julie. I was wondering if we could have a little clarification. You often use the word, our life and death, this saying, our life and death are in our words. And I was wondering if we could review, maybe next time we get together next Monday, the words boundaries and the word rule, because when boundaries, my parents never used the word boundaries with me, and when I looked it up, it says the definition is that which limits, keeps in restraints, limits, set bounds to, ambition, to confine. When I looked at the word rule, it says standard or guide for action, to exercise authority or dominion over, to control conduct, guide, to keep straight, sway, and establish principle, standard, or guide for action. Somehow or other, the word boundaries for me, I never used it, my parents never used it, doesn't fit real well, and I was just wondering how parents feel about boundaries versus rules.
Let's set that as a vision for next Monday's show, and to move in that direction, talk about that. And Jeannie's just telling me that next Monday we're flying. So Dr. Tim, if you would host the show next Monday, that would be awesome if that's a possibility, and perhaps that could be a starting point for the show. And I would move forward, Julie, to the word laws, and to recognize that the laws are the effects, or the way the system works according to the eternal forces of the universe. So when people understand that it's all an operation of law, and it doesn't matter whether we like the law or not. If you put your feet out from the bed in the morning, you don't have a choice to say, I don't like gravity, I want my feet to go up. Your feet are going to go down. It's just the way it works. And you could call that rules, and if our rules are in harmony with those eternal forces, then everything tends to move forward for everybody. So perhaps next Monday we can make that the starting point of our topic. And everybody else, if you creatively think about what next Monday's show might be about, and text me, that would be awesome. In the meantime, we're just about down to zero. We're still in Oregon, actually Portland. Yesterday, Doug and Diane have a center here where they do a thing called higher brain learning, and we had it was just a couple of days notice, and we had 50 people in a Y workshop yesterday, so it was fabulous. Look at the website to check out Jeannie's women's workshops in Bristol, Tennessee, and our summer program.